Hey people, this is Joe Bright, your host of Poetry Song. Poetry is something that drives us through every day. Well, mine anyway. And I constantly battle with the words in my mind and in my soul. Poetry Song takes everyday topics and put them in verse just for you. The battle for dominance is on. Join me every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. until 8:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll be changing the world with poetry, one line at a time, right here on Poetry Song. Well, good evening. Hello, people. Joe Bright here. I just want you all to know that I'm up late. I can never make that 7:30 thing. I'll change it one day, but who cares? I don't really care right now. I'm really glad to be with you. So tonight, I just want to talk about a couple of things. Well, one thing in particular, and I think it's on all of our minds. Bad decisions. Bad decisions. But before I get into that, I want to play y'all a little something called anger issues. Hold on now. Listen to this. Anger issues. I have them. Yes, I do. I can't remember when I didn't. Sometimes when you least expect it, an infinitesimal thought from a time you haven't given any thought to in a long time takes advantage of a quiet time. It slips in under the radar in a moment of introspection, blasting through like a tidal wave during a day at the park near the shore while you're enjoying a glass of Chardonnay with your significant other, who just happens to be apologizing again. And it's there. And you don't really have a full memory of why anger is an issue. It just is. But anger is in the details. The first time I rolled my eyes in righteous indignation, my youth clouded my ability to see anything except what I wanted. My eyes rolled clean through my teens, and as time passed, as the years do, my hands made gestures clearly not measured in the least explainable. But whenever the feeling of anger arose, it became clear where the fuse started and ended. With me, externally. Hands raised in the air, fists balled into knots, my fingers splayed, pointing accusations at the offending party. And just when I thought there was going to be a time to cool down, my head couldn't stop throbbing because I really didn't realize that my eyes became shot with blood and my face was contorting to a point that I could see harsh lines along my cheekbones. But the worst part was feeling your heart race like a herd of stampeding rhino or elephants. Your jaw aching because before you even said a word, you were grinding and gritting your teeth and your molars so hard, it was what caused the headache in the first place. And you were gripping something balled in your hand and found out it was just tissue. Time is not your friend in times like these. You know it's best to keep your mouth shut. Stay out of it. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just can't. Hey people, Joe Bright for Poetry Song, BFD, Battle for Dominance. That's who I am. I am in a battle for dominance of words. Aren't we all though? Tonight I want to talk to you about bad decisions. I've made my share, not horrible bad decisions. I mean, because on the scale of bad decisions, my life against yours, it's all retrospect, right? But I'm just like trying not to get too bent shape about shit, because it kind of really bothers me sometimes. I think about all of the friends that I lost that I thought were friends, and I'm sure everybody's like, well, how can you still call them friends if you lost them? Well, that's the problem, isn't it? You think you have friends, people that you know and have known for years, and then suddenly we had this mess, total fuck up of a presidential election last year, and I just disassociated myself with a lot of people. And was that a bad decision on my part? I mean, I think about it sometimes and I think, well, maybe it was a bad decision. But for me, when I did it, it wasn't. I feel like I could go back and talk to them, but I also feel like these very people that I disassociated myself from, if they went and voted for who I think that they voted for, then and they're not remorseful about it. I mean, come on, let's look at it. The State of the Union, we can't even call it that no more. But I want to go back and I want to talk to them. I don't want to say, well, what do you think about your decision that you made to do what you did? You know, I unfriended a person who outright told me how she felt about my son. I'm like, really? You're sitting across the table talking to me like that. And that was a bad decision on her part because I haven't spoken to her since. I'm still trying to, you know how you just be reeling. You're reeling, really reeling from the things that people say to you, you know. That was a bad decision on her part. It's been a plethora of bad decisions that have happened in the country since then. My biggest and worst bad decision, I want to say, in my entire life, don't get mad at me, my first marriage. I was too damn young to be getting married. Now, I had a baby by the end. You know, I had a wonderful little boy. And I was clearly pregnant with my second child that belonged to my first husband, but we just didn't have any business being married. That was a bad decision. I've had bad hair decisions. I've had bad, you know, you go to the beauty salon and you get your hair done, and you go to the nail shop and you get your nails done, and sometimes you walk out and so clearly some bad decisions have been made, you know, with clothes, with jobs, you know. Bad decisions. I mean, and they happen all the time. I have to get over myself. We all have to get over ourselves when it comes to things like that. And I have these wonderful arguments in my head. I wax eloquent on a regular basis. And I can understand why when I open up my mouth to say those very things to the person that I'm upset with, that they never come out the way I say them in my head. Which is probably why I'm a writer. I write a whole lot better than I speak sometimes, because there's filters when we talk, just like right now. And when you have filters on your breath and your mouth when you're talking to somebody, you and I have a lot of filters because I don't like hurting anybody's feelings. But when I'm upset and those filters are off, so I try not to get upset, because you wind up saying things that clearly you either mean to say some other kind of way, or you wish you had taken the time and said it, but they come out of your mouth, and boy, that just ruins everything. So I personally try not to make those kinds of bad decisions by not being angry with people to the point where I'm so upset that I can't hear the words that are coming out of my mouth until it's too late. Hey, that's a good one, right? Ever been in an argument like that? I know I have. I have been in arguments where, well, and then when I was younger, I'm not in my 20s, but you know, when I was younger, I mean, I would get so angry, I could see red, and you know, I could look in my mirror after it's all said and done, and my hair would be standing on top of my head, and my eyes would be bloodshot, and my jaw would be aching, and you know, my fist just angry. But I have all that in check now. I do. Drinking alcohol helps calm a person down. I'm not an alcoholic, although some people would say back in the day when I did drink a whole lot that I was, but I've never been an alcoholic. But, you know, sometimes drinking a whole bottle of whiskey by yourself, or a whole bottle of wine, or, you know, getting a blunt, just chilling out, that is the kind of stuff you want to do to tell yourself, all right, it's going to be all right. I'm going to calm down. And you might calm down and not say another word to that person again for the rest of their life. But guess what? It's behind you. So we have to get a hold of ourselves. I have a piece called I'm Not Deaf. It's from my book, My Resume, which can be bought at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Power Bookstores. Check it out. I'm not deaf. Loud noises create a cacophony of sounds that resonates in my ears. I block it out. Screams so intense as to shatter glass, splintering the vastness of space. I block it out. Thunder in the afternoon sky. I count 1,000, waiting. Silent lightning streaking across the afternoon sky, blinding sight instantaneously, briefly. Can you hear it? Worlds at war through eternity, bombing all humanity from sea to shining sea. Death makes a noise. We block it out. Passionate words written on blank pages, moaning and grunting and grinding, sweating, licking and compassing, squeezing the life out of me. Down in the trenches, crawling on my belly, looking for a way out. Guns blasting, boom, people dying, babies being born, a cry for help. Prisoners of sound. I block it out. You talking to me? I turn my head, look away, make a move to leave, not responding. Don't bother. I can't hear you. My actions speaking louder than their words. Paying attention to the frame before me, blocking out the sound behind me, listening for what's important. And that's from my resume. Well, it's the first book I wrote, and I have progressed since then. This is the only published version. I publish on my website excerpts from my resume, the Journals of Joe Bright, my book of short stories that clearly I'm still working on. It's called Mama Said, and I'm actually working on a book entitled Poetry Song. And all those can be found on my website at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. That's momamayaya.wixsite.com/website. Now, why did I choose that one? Because I felt like it spoke to me when I wrote it for the first time. My first book, my resume, was like a catharsis for me. Every night as I was raising my babies and my husband was at work and I was by myself, and I took my pen and paper and I wrote down these poems after I had these journal entries. And, I looked up one day, I was like, oh, it's a whole book. And lo and behold, it got published by Tate Publishing, which I'm sorry to say, I've heard that it's going out of business. And I really would like to know what's going to happen to my book. But, that happens. Was that a bad decision to sign a contract with them? No, because I got my book published. It's in bookstores. I will still be receiving royalties from all of the sales of that book. But I doubt very seriously that I will have any more books published by Tate Publishing. So yes, I am in the market for a new publisher. I do have videos on YouTube called Excerpts from My Resume, and I chronicle the journey of my self-publication. And self-publishing, a lot of people go, I have all these books, and I look at all these people who publish their own books, and they're good. But I see the work that a professional publication can do and what other publisher, self-publication can do, and I go, I don't know if I like that. However, I am looking into doing an ebook. That is a terrible segue. See, that's my mind. And how it works. My mind, I keep going over and over in my head all of the things that I have to accomplish. And all those comes around to bad decisions. I don't think, like I said, it wasn't a bad decision to sign that contract because I did get a book out of it, and I got a TV commercial, and, they gave me a whole lot of contacts. But publishing ain't what it used to be. Not only are bookstores not what they used to be, publishing companies are not what they used to be either. So for me, it became a good decision to start publishing my own stuff online myself after I got the copyrights done. And I'm really happy with that. So good decision, bad decision. I have it on ebook as well. So, if anybody's interested, just go ahead to tatepublishing.com. And, if the website's still up, I'm still there as a Tate author, and you can purchase my ebook from them. I think it's $10.99. I wish it cost less, but it doesn't, and which is probably why they're going out of business. For them, there's a whole lot of bad decisions going on. And with that, I want you to listen to this. this thing called self-image, the who I am right now. So I'm looking in the mirror at this person, and she's staring back at me, and she's gotten a little older, and she has the tiny gray hairs on her temples, some small creases in her face, and her eyes seem a little deeper set and just a little darker. There's wisdom there. Was my nose always this big? And my complexion pale? But there's an eerie confidence about her now that wasn't there before. Before, I was this girl who portrayed a self-confidence that wavered when a more self-confident person came along. She was always in danger of being molded and shaped into somebody that she didn't want to be, but she was too timid about the process of growing, and she would let somebody lead her to that person she wanted to be because she didn't know how to do it herself. She was somebody I don't know now. But there she is staring at me from the other side of the mirror. And I really have put her through a lot over the years. In the beginning, her life was like a maze, and navigation was difficult at best. And sometimes, no matter what decision she opted for, she worried about the outcome. And when she saw what that decision brought, she questioned whether she should go back and do something else, because really, what if she decided con against pro or pro against con? I mean, because the pros never seemed to gain much and always seemed to be the odd one out, and always wondered why. And the questions kept coming, even after the answers were given. But she kept moving forward. Her life to her at first always to her, seemed so unfair. She wanted to know why making the choice to be good was so great. Why was it so great? Because good was so boring, and she didn't like going back on her word. She was an honest person. I was an honest person to myself. So she, I, me, we learned what integrity really meant in action. She was always in danger of being shaped into someone I'm not and didn't ever want to be. She kept her guard up, way up. So far up, she, me, I almost shut everyone out. But was that a bad thing? Had she, me, I not opened the door, taken the chains off, or peeked through the curtains, we could have become someone else, not the who I am now. Now, I like her smile. She's friendly and outgoing and helpful. She never lets anything bring her down, and she doesn't cower in a corner when she finds herself dealing with adversity. I like that she looks people in the eye when speaking to them. She laughs and giggles and tells really bad jokes. When she was younger, much younger, she cried at the drop of a pen. But she, me, we learned how to choose which battles were worth fighting. And so now, the tears shed from this pretty face are for those chosen few. You know, her hands were so much stronger before now. I mean, she could pop open a jar like there was nothing to it. Lift loads and loads of laundry, trash, garden leaf bags, boxes, bunk bags, the kind of heavy lifting that needs to be done over a lifetime. But our hands, they don't seem to have any signs of aging. I mean, no marks, no wrinkles, no fine lines, just smooth skin, just hands. But they can't do all the things they used to do. And that's okay, because who wants to tote that barge their entire life? Life has dealt the same cards over and over. The deck even got reshuffled a couple of times from what she could see. There have been new decisions and courses of actions, a turnaround in my mindset, a shift in the way things are, and here I am, the who I am right now. I mean, maybe you don't get it. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe you're trying too hard to make sense of it. Maybe there's no sense to be made. Life, my life at least, has been a culmination of events so wondrous, like birth and death. Some horrific, like birth and death. Some that can categorically be labeled an enigma, like birth and death. But whatever the case may be, I'm not anywhere near the end, and I'm really just getting around to the real middle. So I'm just looking at this girl in the mirror who just stares back at me, and I wonder where she got the strength to keep going, to persevere, when all she wanted to do was just let someone, anyone, anybody take over and call it a life. But she's right there. Still me. Still breathing. Still choosing her battles and crying for the chosen few. How about that? That was an introspective piece. When I think about the way that I write, therein lies the whole BFD of it all. The battle for dominance. I'm Johanna Bright, also known as Joe Bright, and this is Poetry Song. I'm also the co-host on Jamaica Funk Show. It's a social media television talk show that is on the Catherine Winston channel. Look, and you can just go on my YouTube channel as well. I put the episodes on there on excerpts from my resume. It's the Jamaica Funk Show with me, Joe Bright, Catherine Winston's, and Christos Tositas. We really get into some stuff and we talk about things. Just check us out. We're on once a week. Got a few videos up. Got a whole lot of content. Y'all gonna like that. We like to interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And sometimes they may not seem extraordinary to them, but, we live in this world today that we feel like something absolutely fantastic and wonderful and exciting has to happen in order to capture our attention. And sometimes it's just the little things, We live in the North. I live up here, and I hate even saying it because, I chose living in this state for other reasons that I'm living in it now, but it's Hammond, Indiana. It's like saying, yeah, I live with the enemy. I do not like living in Hammond, Indiana, the state. I like my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I have great neighbors. They treated us really well. And I always thought it was a really good decision when we first moved here. It was a great place to raise our kids. There were other children that they could play with. But we were, even in 1995, the only black family on our block. Oh my gosh, for a few blocks. And my kids were the only black kids in their classes. And it was really difficult for me to wrap my head around their safety. They were safe. They didn't have the kind of problems that I had coming up. I mean, just think about it. You think that, we'll move our kids into a safer neighborhood and things are going to be okay because, there are not a lot of gang violence. I was born and raised in Chicago, and you move them to a small town with people at the time, small-minded people. But they kept to themselves and they mind their own business. And if there was bigotry and racism, thankfully my kids didn't have to put up with a whole lot of it, but it was there. They weren't loved. And a lot of decisions had to be made when they were growing up, who their friends would be, where the places they would go. And I found that I was very involved in everything that they did, from going to school, picking them up from school, after school, birthday parties, everywhere they went. But we tried to keep them safe by just being us. I didn't think that we would be able to accomplish that living in the city because it's so different. Chicago is so different. The underbelly of the beast, racism, I mean, it just slithers around and you never know when it's going to slap you in the face in the big city. Here, it's right there in your face. It's just right there in your face. You can see it all day long. Who hates you, who doesn't hate you because of the color of your skin. And that's just the truth. They smile in your face and you can see it in their eyes. You know, if they don't want to be bothered with you, they literally will snicker at you. And we have gotten it all the time. Which brings us fast forward me to today. I unfriended a woman who doesn't live in this state. She and I met at a church, and we became good friends right away. And this election came up, and, you know, I realized that I was her black story. I was her black friend. And it hurt me a lot because she came off so sincere, but she wasn't sincere at all. I was her black story. I was her friend that she talked about with her other white friends. And I just couldn't deal with it. I tried to convince myself that she wasn't who she said she was because she was such a nice person. But she didn't even realize that she was a racist. And come to think of it, I had known quite a few white women who were like that in my life. And they just didn't even want to realize that they were racist because of the way they were raised. Do you know what I mean? And they were white women. And a lot of people say, well, you know, black people can be racist. Well, maybe, I don't know. I've heard some racist things come out of black people. But for the most part, black people, we tend to be always on the lookout for somebody who hates us rather than looking at people to hate. And I'm just talking in generalities. I'm almost certain that's not true of all black people. But I've never seen a white person worry about whether or not a black person was going to like them because of the color of their skin. Black people, we tend to come into a room and we worry about whether or not we will be accepted because of the color of our skin. And the bad decision is when we realize that it doesn't take the whole room to hate us. We can walk into that room and see 3 or 4 people who clearly do not like us for the color of their skin. And if you have never been raised that way, then you will never understand it. If you know, it's really something. Black people can walk through a white neighborhood and you can it's like peeling off a nasty scab that it's just right there. It's oozing out at you, and there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. You could be having a really great day and then walk in front of somebody and they just hate you because of your skin color. Imagine living like that. Imagine living like that. And that's the bad decision on their part because they don't know how great a person I am. They don't know how wonderful my kids are, or my husband and my family. And they don't realize I have mixed people in my family. From my in-laws to my daughter-in-law to my grandchildren, and they're beautiful little girls. They're gorgeous. They're part white, part black. I'm Mexican, I'm Indian, I'm black. But if you just reject me based on the way I look, you're missing out on getting to know a really great person. Anyway, going on to the next piece, it's called Was It Really Going So Well? I kind of like that one too. Here you go, y'all. Take a listen to this. Was it really going all so well? You were finally doing all those things that you thought you wanted to do. The mistress or master of your destiny. No one had control over your day. It was planned out to your specifications, desires, goals. Nothing happened that you didn't know about in your life. You made your own schedule, set, planned, and wrote the script of your day. Then you got sucker punched into thinking that you had a place in this world. You foolhardily believed that this was a race you could win, and that you had a dog in this fight. Your 2 proverbial cents to put in and make a difference. You weren't alone. Even though you completely forgot that you didn't want anything to do with the fight, because the fight, the battle, the war wasn't for people like you. People who believe that if you play fair, play your cards right, don't cheat, be honest, never malign another person, step on someone else's throat to get ahead, or push aside the ideas, conceptions, and hard work of another to get ahead, that if you respect the boundaries of another, that you would do well. But that's not true. This world isn't for you to conquer or to claim. It already has its victors here, and they aren't about to give up the throne without a fight. They've claimed what they know are the best parts of this world, and they are not about to relinquish that power to you or me or anyone else. They have been grooming and molding and shaping their children for decades so they can hand that power and wealth over to them. And if I or you want a piece of that power or wealth, don't think it's going to be a fair fight. Because the powers that be have trained their heirs on how to wield, manipulate, and lord over others that power and wealth, so that one day all that power, wealth, that big dog in the fight, can be theirs. And their children have been fighting amongst themselves for all that power, all that wealth. Their servants, even the lowest of their ranks, have been salivating about that power, that wealth. Their servants, the undeserved privileged, who open and lock their doors and stand behind them in public, looking out for their well-being. Their servants who send their hard-earned money to their families, open 401ks and money market accounts so they can send their children to schools where the tuition is higher than your yearly salary. Their servants who make sure their friends get the best jobs, even at the lowest levels, because they hear privileged conversations. And their friends act like they're privileged because they were the first to get a job when no one else could. And they all become beholden to the privileged few, unaware that they're being used and stepped on. They don't really see that they're no better off than those of us who don't know the privileged few. They just get to hang around them sometimes. They don't have a dog in the fight either. The rest who have been used and misused, who have been put out and stepped on, made to feel less than themselves. Especially after we've all spent our entire lives reminding ourselves daily that we are somebody with worth, somebody with intelligence and sophistication, somebody with the ability to stand up for ourselves and to stand with others for a righteous cause. We just want a change of power to hands we think we can trust. But sometimes it's the same set of hands with a different label. And the same people in power still manage to make you feel like if you just hang in there, one day you too can have a dog in this fight. If you want to. That was called. Was it really all going so well? No, it's never really going as well as we think, and we have to tell ourselves to just accept things. I was talking to Catherine, KT, on her show the other night, and we both agree, you know what? We ain't got a dog in this fight. We like to think we got a dog in this fight, but we don't. Politics is always going to be politics, and the way things are, well, that's just the way things are. You have your good presidents and you have your bad presidents. You have your good administrations and you have your bad administrations. And we just stuck with a really suck-ass administration right now. They don't know they ass from a hole in the wall. And I'm just being honest. Anyway, let's go to my last piece. This one is called See What Happens? It's just a string of decisions, good or bad. They have to be made. Moments of clarity, lights at the end of the tunnel vision, grinding reality, a string of metaphors, making logical conclusions from disoriented patterns of possibilities, clerical error in thinking, adjust the pole of the position, train of thought making connections, stop ahead of the desired goal, keeping scorecards to break even, taking the prize to the bank, burning bridges that narrow the gap, vying for first place, keeping ahead of the game, a foul on the play, a rain delay, a timeout, a free shot, a missed opportunity. Just a string of decisions, good or bad. They have to be made. Death notice. If we can allow 130 million slaves to be murdered over a period of 400 years and more, if we can allow 12 million Jews to be incinerated in less than 6 years, If we can send a generation of young men to the slaughter for the glory of a nation, if we continue to allow beautiful lost women to be prostituted and pimped by sociopathic, overindulgent, mind-controlling dregs that have been tossed out because of society standards, if we continue to allow our children to rule all they survey and destroy all they touch because of a lack of knowledge that hasn't been passed on to them, if we keep throwing out the baby with the dishwater simply because it eases our minds not to be responsible for our own actions, if we keep erecting tombs to house our elderly away from our young, denying our future the privilege of our past, if our only hope is lost in a generation of anger, promiscuity, and prepubescent parents who don't have the skill required to change a diaper or a light bulb when it burns out, we can go to sleep every night fitful, assured we have signed our own death notice. That's called death notice. Now, I'm not saying that this is just another string of bad decisions and thoughts that we constantly have made. That death notice is an epitaph to our past. And we have to stop making bad decisions and look at our future and say, what else can we do to make things right? What can we do to make our children see that, sure, there were protests and riots and people got shot and there was disloyalty and disruptions in our government and people hated and distrusted each other on a regular basis. Our school systems are failing. The politics and the politicians are failing, and everyone is trying really hard to figure out why. And it's greed and hunger and death and famine and earthquakes. It's biblical at best. But it's not the end of the world, not yet. We're still here and we still have an opportunity to make things happen and change for the better for all of us. And we need to really like to latch on to that. This last piece is called What the Mind Wants. So often the heart is to blame because what the heart wants, the heart wants. We give in to what the heart wants because the torment it puts us through. It's physical and knows exactly where to strike to get its way. Then we give the heart what it wants. More often, the mind is left to starve in a wasteland of stupidity. We don't know just how important it is to feed the mind, so it waits patiently, allowing us to make the heartfelt and whimsical decisions of our emotional plane. It waits while you don't pay any attention to your first mind, while you make another useless decision. It waits while you wander about in the blue funk because you just had to have that physical thing while you blunder on, not listening or paying attention to what the mind wants. It waits to give you just enough rope to hang yourself with. Then you pay attention to what the mind wants. I'm Joe Bright, and this is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. Those last couple of pieces came from my book, My Resume, which can be bought on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. You can check me out on my website at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. That's MOMMAYAY.WIX site.com/website. Or you could just go /my site. I have two. One is a blog just for poetry and the other one is a website. I tend to overdo things and sometimes I think, well, you just go down to one, Joe. But, I am who I am. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Instagram, I am on Google Plus. I'm one of those people, I just have to keep going and keep going and keep going because I feel like I have something that I want everybody to know and to read about and hear about and think about. My intention is to show you a better version of yourself, to change the way your mind is set and the things that you say and think and do daily. As a mother and a wife, a sister, and a daughter, a friend, I constantly battle with that all the time. But that's just who I am. And I'm constantly trying to open myself up to a better version of me. I I used to be this person who always said the most inappropriate things all the time. And I don't mean like cussing, because everybody can cuss. Everybody can say fucking damn shit. But I said the most inappropriate things on a regular basis. That's just who I was. I was young, I was naive, and, I just sometimes, I just didn't even know no better. I didn't. I tried, but, it was just not something that I could do. Here's my last piece for the night. It's called One Bad Thought. That's right. Y'all got to take it all in. Ask yourself if any of that is you. A lot of it is me because I wrote it. Take a listen to this. One bad thought. 2 days ago, I was uniquely pissed. One thought after another came into my head that seemed to make me angrier by the minute. As the day progressed, there was no one thing that I could put my finger on that would help me pinpoint this wretched disposition. It just was. And no amount of positive thinking seemed to help. A good thought was surreptitiously replaced by a bad one. My mind seemed to want to follow the torrent of reviling going on in my head. I had to physically, outwardly, inwardly, lovingly, with fierce determination, tell myself, cut this crap out. You just can't let some random thought take root unsuspiciously and grow under the guise of a passing thought, memory, forgotten conversation. Nip it, squash it, stomp it out. It has no place in who you are today. Don't let it fester. Don't give it breath. Whether it's right or wrong, whether you were judged, justified, or seek to be vilified. It is a was, a should have been, a should have said, a never was. It has no weight unless you pick it up. It has no credence unless you give it. It has no power unless you give it power. Go away, bad thought. I'm better than that now. I may have been that other person before, but I've grown. I've matured. I've learned from my mistakes and the mistakes of others. I won't allow you to hold me back another second. I've replaced you with thoughts more near and dear to my heart. So it shrank away and scuttled back into the darkness from whence it came. But I have to be on the lookout for it, set up my guards and sentries. Because first chance it gets, it's coming back. Now ain't that the truth about it all? One bad thought. Let's be kind to each other. Let's love each other. Let's not give in to our baser instincts and cuss each other out the first time somebody pisses us off. We're living in a very heated climate in this country right now, hell, around the world. And it's easy to lash out. It's easy to be angry. I was looking at that viral video about the young man in the store who just took it on GP, that this woman was a shoplifter. And he attacked her. See, that was a really bad decision on his part. And I do hope that everything turns out okay for her. And that was one of the main reasons why I unfriended a lot of people, because they did not understand the floodgates of hatred that were opened up because of the last presidential campaign. The floodgates of the underbelly of the beast of this country. And they still don't get it. My children and my future grandchildren and my grandchildren that I have now, because I have 3 beautiful little granddaughters, they all have to live in this world behind us. They're coming up behind us, and we are leaving them a horrible, horrible past to learn about. And we're not even getting over the one that our parents left us. Can't we just try to give them something better than what we have? Isn't that the point of it all? I'm Joe Bright. This is Poetry Song, Battle for Dominance. Let's be loving and kind and gentle and caring with each other. And let's not give in to those baser instincts and make bad decisions. I try to live my life different and better every day. Why don't you join me? I'm Johanna Bright. This is Joe's Poetry Song. Have a good day, people. Be kind to each other.